So the future is here can have many meanings, but for us in Saskatchewan, Canada, the future is here because we have the world's first operating commercial-scale carbon capture and storage project integrated with a coal-fired unit. In Saskatchewan, Canada, the future is here because our population is increasing and our economy is expanding and diversifying. So let me tell you a bit about Saskatchewan. Back. Sorry, thank you, Holly. One more. So Saskatchewan is located in Western Canada. To the south, North Dakota is our neighbor. To the west, we have Alberta, and to the east, Manitoba. Approximately 25% of the Saskatchewan economy is derived from 3 primary sectors. That is agriculture, petroleum, and mining. Saskatchewan produces 1/3 of the world's potash and uranium. Saskatchewan is second only to Alberta in Canadian oil production. Saskatchewan is resource blessed. We have oil, natural gas, potash, uranium, gold, diamonds, and other mining, including coal. SaskPower was established in 1929. We are a Crown corporation, meaning we have a minister responsible. So we are accountable to a board, cabinet, and ultimately the taxpayer. So Saskatchewan has the land base about the size of Texas. We run from the 49th parallel to the 60th. We have 1.1 million people dispersed throughout the province. As my president would like to say, we have more power poles than people. So as I said, Saskatchewan is growing, so we're facing demand pressures. So SaskPower will invest $1 billion annually over the next 10 years to upgrade, maintain, and expand our infrastructure. SaskPower is a diversified power generator. We have 3 coal-fired units, 6 natural gas, 7 hydroelectric, and 2 wind farms. We're continuing to look at increasing our renewable option, but we believe a diversified portfolio is the way to go. And in 2014, we added CCS to that portfolio. So SaskPower has been looking at CCS since pre-2000. However, it was in early 2000 that we received $240 million from the Canadian federal government. This allowed us to undertake several studies to advance CCS. And ultimately, in December 2010, we received approval on the rebuild of our power unit. In April 2011, we received the go decision from government to move on the capture facility, and we mobilized weeks later in May 2011. So why did we get involved in CCS? As I mentioned, SaskPower is facing increasing demand. As an example, in 2013, we set 3 demand records. So SaskPower is forecasting that that demand will continue to grow for some time. So we believe even if we put CCS on all of our coal units, we would still need to add to our supply mix. The challenge for us is to provide reliable, sustainable, affordable, and environmental electricity while meeting demand. When SaskPower was evaluating CCS, we considered a number of factors, including the reliability of coal generation, the fact that we had an ample supply of coal in proximity to our coal-fired plants. We looked at the volatility of other fuel sources. We wanted risk mitigation through diversification. We believed we had value in our existing infrastructure, and we also believed there was economic benefit to the community and province to maintain coal. During that time where we were evaluating CCS, we also heard that the Canadian federal government was contemplating regulation on coal-fired plants. The decision to move forward happened before that regulation became a reality. But ultimately, in September 2012, the announcement was made, and the regulation will come into force July 1, 2015. The regulation essentially states that at the end of useful life, or 50 years of age, the coal-fired plant shuts down or converts to CCS. The Canadian federal regulation wanted coal to be as clean as natural gas. So they set that amount at 420 tons of CO2 per gigawatt hour. Our Unit 3 was operating at 1,100 tons of CO2 per gigawatt hour. With 90% capture, we believe we will be at 140 tons of CO2 per gigawatt hour. That's approximately 2.5 times cleaner than natural gas. So while SaskPower was undertaking this analysis and its due diligence, of course it had to compare to the next best alternative, and that's natural gas. So what we did was look at the 35-year life cycle costs of both options. And at a very high level, this is what we found. With the capture facility option, you're looking at 2/3 of the cost being capital and 1/3 being fuel. Your O&M are essentially the same. Natural gas is the opposite. 1/3 capital, 2/3 fuel cost. Given that market volatility and the other considerations, our board and cabinet determined to go ahead with the capture facility. So this is essentially two projects. We had the rebuild of Unit 3, and we were building a brand new capture facility and integrating the two. SaskPower hadn't built a coal-fired plant since the early 80s, so the rebuild and integration was new for them. Building a commercial-scale capture plant was not only new for SaskPower, but new to the world. This is boundary down. Sorry, if you could just flip back. Thank you, Holly. So you see the power station. The first red stack on your left is Unit 3. To your right is the capture facility. The duct you're seeing carries the flue gas from Unit 3 to the capture facility. The water treatment is behind, and to your very left is our fly ash silo. Now Holly's going to play a time lapse for you that shows the progress of construction.
Whoa.
So at peak, we had 1,700 workers on site. We have over 4.5 million man-hours with no lost time injuries. This is significant. Just to give you some idea, the coldest day of the year was -40 Celsius. The hottest day was +40, which is about 104 Fahrenheit. So there's extreme variability. So this is just a photo of the absorber. This absorber is 14 stories high. It was built 1 foot at a time. It contains approximately 70,000 ceramic tiles. It was built for 90% capture. It's been overbuilt to be conservative. So we believe should we do another project, we may have savings here. Now this is where the flue gas will come into the facility, and it will come in contact with an amine-based solvent. As it comes into contact, the SO2 and CO2 will separate out or absorb into its separate sections. Now, I mentioned an amine-based solvent. This is a CANSolve technology. There are approximately 10,000 gallons of amine running through this facility. The great thing about this facility is its flexibility. Should CANSolve or another vendor come up with a more efficient amine, we can easily drain out the amine and replace it with the new one. Now this perspective is from the top of the capture facility. And if you look to the very left, there are two gentlemen standing up on the roof. So that just gives you some idea of how big this vessel is. And that's the top of the building. So this is a thermal reclaimer or stripper. It utilizes a distillation technology to capture, clean, and reclaim the amine back to its original state while removing degraded amine waste. Now this is not new. This has been utilized in industry for over 50 years. However, it was just recently adapted for CO2 capture. Now, this stripper was built in Alberta. It was the heaviest piece of equipment ever hauled on Saskatchewan highway. We literally had linemen in front of this vessel lifting lines to allow it to pass through. In addition, we had to have a crane come up from Texas to put it in place. So, pretty long trip for a few hours of work. And here's the SO2 stripper. This is a photo from inside, so it just gives you some perspective of the difference in size. This is a shot of our acid plant. This is a first-of-a-kind plant integrated in a CCS facility. This is where the SO2 is transformed into 96% pure commercial-grade sulfuric acid. We sell a truck and a half a day as well as supply ourselves. The CO2 pipeline. So just before this, we have a dehydrator and compressor. The compressor is German-built, 8-stage, 18,000 horsepower. The CO2 compressor will eliminate the moisture and compress the CO2 to 2200 psi. It will then move via pipeline out to the oil field for enhanced oil recovery or to our pure storage site. So these are just some of the stats pre and post CCS on our project. As you can see, improvements in all areas. So what this graphic shows you is the estimated levelized cost of energy by source. Now the benchmarker standard is natural gas. When people were looking at CCS initially, they thought the price would be that gray box. Holly, if you can press again. This is where SaskPower believes we will land. Now that we are operational, we will recalculate again. But what this shows is that with EOR, the economics of CCS become competitive for us. So at 90% capture, what does that mean? That means 250,000 cars off the road annually. Now with this slide, we just wanted to give an indication of the complexity of this project. Because you are not only operating a power unit, you are now operating a chemical facility. So this was brand new to SaskPower. So there was complex commissioning, unprecedented simulator training. We spent millions on simulators and finding the right type of labor and training so that they could operate this facility. There are hundreds of detailed standard operating procedures, not to mention the extensive contract negotiation and management. So Boundary Dam is full spectrum CCUS. We have capture, utilization, and storage. Our project, we managed to secure off-takers. Obviously, our biggest revenue stream is selling that CO2 to the oil company for EOR. We have a 10-year contract, and we're selling all of it. We also sell a truck and a half a day of the sulfuric acid, and we sell 100% of our fly ash. So enhanced oil recovery is not new to Canada or the US. Texas has been doing it since 1975. In Saskatchewan, we've been doing it for several years as well. But it is a great economic benefit to our province. As you can see, with CO2 injection, we've increased production by 20,000 barrels a day. That means labor and economic spin-off to those communities and royalties to the province. So it's a win-win. Now this is our storage site, known as Aquastore. Aquastore consists of 2 wells, an injection well and a monitoring well. These were the deepest wells drilled in Saskatchewan to a depth of 3.2 kilometers deep. Aquastore over its life will receive approximately 350,000 tons of CO2. Storage is regulated in Saskatchewan by our Ministry of Environment. So if we wanted to store more, we would need to go back and work with them on appropriate permitting. Aquastore will have a robust measuring, monitoring, and verification process that will be undertaken by our Petroleum Technology Research Center. So where is SaskPower going? Obviously, we're very proud of the fact that we have Boundary Dam 3 in operation. We also have our carbon capture test facility currently under construction. That will be open for business in early 2015. The carbon capture test facility is at our sister station of Shand. Literally, I can be at Boundary Dam and see Shand in the horizon. Now, what the carbon capture test facility is it allows vendors to come in, utilize the flue gas stream from Shand and test their technology and then compare against the actual data from Boundary Dam. In addition, we have recently added our amine chemistry lab. We have collaboration with our university, and we're looking for other collaboration opportunities with other universities. We are currently looking at Boundary Dam 4 and 5. We need a decision by 2016 to meet our regulation. Boundary Dam 4 and 5 would be done together. This would be a 300 megawatt project. And as well, as Lloyd just spoke of, we held our symposium and grand opening. So Boundary Dam has gained international attention. We have had delegations from around the world come visit us. And I would say in the past year alone, we've had 500 people through this plant. And if you look in the left-hand corner, you may recognize somebody. I believe he's Senator Bebo of Wyoming. He visited with Energy Council not that long ago. So we were very pleased to have that group tour. So during our symposium, SaskPower launched its SaskPower's CCUS Global Consortium. Membership in this consortium will give organizations the opportunity to join a world-class forum that creates an ability to access data, engage with experts, collaborate on research, and exchange expertise. SaskPower believes the consortium provides the platform for knowledge sharing because it builds on an operating commercial scale project. Saskatchewan is becoming an epicenter of CCUS expertise. We have the infrastructure in capture, storage, and utilization. So why Boundary Dam matters, or why the consortium matters? Well, coal provides approximately 45% of global electrical generation. According to the IEA, there are over 2,300 coal-fired power stations, or 7,000 individual units. There are also estimates of approximately 12,000 new coal-fired plants being proposed across 59 countries. In 2010, 61 countries produced coal and 104 countries consumed it. As my premier would say, coal is not going away. We need all hands on deck, not just in keeping coal as part of our portfolios, but working together to share our learning and ensuring consistent messaging on cleaner, greener, and safer energy and how CCS can be part of that mix. The Boundary Dam project met our business objectives. It contributes to safe, sustainable, affordable power, diversifies our generation portfolio, and reduces risk. It also contributes to the economic and labor attributes of the province while meeting Canadian federal regulatory requirements. Based on what we have learned, we believe that we can save 20 to 30% on our next project. That's substantial when you're looking at a $1.4 billion project. That means savings in time, money, and resources. Now, a key component to a project of this type is public acceptance. SaskPower believes public acceptance needs to start before the project, during the project, and after the project. So our strategy is ongoing, and this is also a key focus of the consortium. We know that fossil fuels provide the vast majority of the world's energy supply because they are reliable, produce energy on demand, and are integrated with our modern world. Even as we continue to increase our renewable energies, we can expect that coal will continue to be utilized. Given this, public education needs to happen now, and SaskPower is doing its part to do that. We believe our project can help support public acceptance as we show that coal can be utilized in a more environmental way and that storage and utilization are safe. We go with act locally, but think globally. And with that, I'd like to start another video. What this is an example of our public acceptance. We brought together 100 grade 7 students to participate in a day of CCUS experiments. felt when I saw 100 grade 7 students running at me with full energy. I have to say it was one of the best experiences of my career to see these kids so energetic and enthused about learning about CCS. They were engaged the whole day through. But as you saw, it's not just Saskatchewan. We linked in with a number of other countries. And what this opportunity allows is for these kids to talk with these other students learning about CCS around the world and learn and educate. And we're hoping that these students share that at home and educate their parents, because we want them to be part of moving CCS forward. So if this interests you or anything about our project interests you, I encourage you to talk to us. And let's discuss how we can work together, not only for our collective need, but to encourage innovation and collaboration to move knowledge on CCS forward globally. And if you can't come visit us, please take the tour on our website. It's a great interactive tour. So thank you for your time.
Great job, Rhonda. So I'm sure we have some questions from the board. Just a few comments. Thank you very much. It's extremely interesting, and I'll save all my questions for when I come up in a few weeks.
We look forward to having you there.
All right. Yeah, thank you too, and I'll see you up there with Michael.
Fantastic.
Questions?
I'll do this quick. Do the revenues that you generate from the sulfuric acid and from the oil field carbon dioxide offset the reduction in electricity revenues by the power that you have to use to run the CCS?
You know, unfortunately, I don't have the answer for that. If that's something that you would like to email me, I can get you the answer for that. But you know, you bring up a point that obviously there is parasitic load to operate the capture facility. Now, just so you know, initially what we were hearing is that experts in this sector thought parasitic load would be about 25%. We believe ours will be 21.
Okay. But you get a reduction in the potential revenue out of the electric generation if you convert an existing plant from its nameplate rating. And you have to find revenue coming from somewhere else to offset to justify the ROI.
All I can say is that when we did the business case, and I wasn't privy to that, I'm essentially 2 years at SaskPower now, that I'm sure those were taken into consideration, and it did make sense for our board and cabinet. Thank you. Oh, Tom, be nice.
Well, this is not going to be a question now, it's going to be a comment. Having both Lloyd and I and Carl Bauer had an absolutely spectacular time, and you were such a gracious host. And I want to share with all of you, if you could feel the energy that SaskPower generated, the best way to look at it was the energy out of those videos and the theme and the beat. The entire time we were there, it was very clear to me in trying to figure everything out that both SaskPower and its political establishment in Saskatchewan, using one of Mike's phrases, they're in alignment. All the way from SaskPower's management to a premier wall and everybody. They wanted to see this happen, and they made it happen. There's an enormous sense of pride, and it just oozed through everything they did. And so Lloyd and I and Carl had an opportunity to witness history, literally witness history, to see carbon actually captured and put in a pipe and sent to an oil field. And I think the thing that really got me was not just all the engineering, but the commitment that this company made regarding public acceptance and education, that they knew that they had achieved something and that they wanted to share it with everybody and to involve young people so they could understand what carbon capture means for their future. I'm not worried about climate change for me or even my son, but I'm certainly worried about it for my kids, okay? So I congratulate you. They've involved a lot of people. David Hawkins was there, and he was thrilled. Julio Friedman was there. I think was there 25 countries represented at this?
20 countries.
20 countries. So you're going to hear a lot more about this project. There's much to learn, and SaskPower wants to share. So I think it's great.
Questions?
Daniel Cardenas, Amber Energy. I just have a question regarding the First Nations. I know you mentioned the public input and the community support. As part of the consortium that you mentioned, are any of the First Nations members of the consortium, or have you had any support from them? And then the follow-up, because my comment would be that I think that there are several tribal nations in the United States, especially the Navajo Nation in Arizona and New Mexico, because they have several operating coal facilities, and they get a lot of the revenue for the nation through the coal that they sell. I think they would be very interested in this project, and I'm going to be visiting with the Navajo Nation in the next couple of weeks, and I would suggest to them to make a trip to Saskatchewan and to visit this facility. But is there any input or partnerships with the First Nations?
The consortium has just recently been launched, so right now First Nations are not part of that consortium. But what I can say is that during the process of stakeholder consultation, we absolutely did meet with our First Nations. They are always a consideration and people that we meet with prior to any project in SaskPower. So yes, they are certainly considered and certainly consulted, and we look for their engagement as we move forward.
One more. I was curious, kind of have two questions, but on when your construction, I mean, you're talking about immense size, and so when you have to do repairs, do you have redundancy built in, or when you have an issue for your scrubber or for your amine facility, do you just shut number 3 down and take care of it, is one question. And then I was curious if you could share with me what you do with your spent amines and the solids and stuff that's generated with that.
On the amine, and don't quote me on this because I'm not an engineer and I've not been working that closely on the project to have all of that detail, but I believe there is a process, protocols and procedures that we have in place for removal of the amine. What that exactly is, I do not know, but if that's something you're interested in, I'm sure we could get that information for you. And I'm sorry, your first question?
I was just curious, when you have to do repairs on your CCUS equipment, your scrubber, your amine contact tower and stuff, do you have redundancy built into the project, or?
Sir, we just became operational. So I do know that we have a shutdown planned here in the near future, just to perhaps take care of some procedural items. But again, that's something that I'm not fully briefed on, but I'm sure that there are protocols and processes in place. So if you would like, I can give you my card, and if you're interested, please email that to me and I can get those answers for you.